A ver, creo que estamos ya conectándonos o conectados o no lo sé. Está aquí esto decidiéndose a ver si funciona. Así que creo que me queda un minutinchi. Okay, yes, I think I'm working now. I was chattering away to myself in Spanish because the camera was still not connected properly. So I don't know if you guys can see me. Oh, hey, Catherine, yay, it's working. Okay, nice, lovely. You guys are so lucky. I just got wet while I was doing my tour in El Sardinero for World Virtual Tours. And as soon as I finished and I came down the other way of the coast, it stopped. So we actually have perfect blue skies once again. So this is gonna be much better in that regards. So yeah, and I don't think this is a part of Cantabria, well, a part of Santander in general that we've not done in. Oh, what have I done? I've done something with the camera. It's a bit dark now. Why? Ah, there you go. Fixed. Hey Tish, how are you doing? Thank you so much for joining us, and everybody watching now live or later on at home. I think it's officially time to get started. So let me very quickly introduce myself. So my name is Dr. Lilian Céspedes González. I am the owner of Travolution Tours, and here on YouTube we have a series of virtual tours, talks, etc., just to bring history, culture, and everything that we love to do a bit closer to home for all of those of you who perhaps cannot come or that may want to come and want to get some more information about it. Hey Satyam, thank you so much for joining us in here. Welcome Laurie. Hope that you're doing very good, and again, thank you everybody for joining. Well, we are today in the coast of Santander, which is my hometown, in the north of Spain. This is a relatively small town of about 150,000, nearly 200,000 inhabitants, and we are now walking through the coast of the bay. The Bay of Santander is considered one of the most beautiful in the world, not because I say so, but because this is actually part of a club that determines these things, and this is what I'm going to be showing you today. I think we may have seen a fraction of this, like where I'm starting now in my tour of the Magdalena Peninsula, but the majority of what I'm going to show you today we've not seen before, so I hope you can enjoy it. So let me now turn the camera. Okay, voila. So right in front of us, guys, we have the area of the peninsula of Magdalena. This is where the Magdalena Palace is at the top. I don't know if you can see the flags waving. Unfortunately, the trees are covering the palace itself. And here you have the area of the beach. Right in front of us is the building of Las Caballerías, which were the old stables of the palace, and that also was unfortunately the site for the very first concentration camp in Spain during the period of the Civil War and the Franquist dictatorship. So part of this beautiful landscape that I'm about to show you also has a little bit of a dark history. But today I don't really want to focus so much on that dark history because, well, you know, I do a lot of advocacy for bringing to light the history of Spain. Today I really want to focus on the beautiful views of the coast here. Cantabria is such a privileged region because, as you're gonna see, we have right over here the beach, and right behind us, look at those mountains. I was actually just literally looking ahead of where we are right now. Earlier on this morning, I went to a spa in El Desfiladero de la Ermida near Potes. So it's, as you can see, we have the best of both worlds. And yes, Tish, I'm actually in Spain. We are an hour ahead of the UK, which is where I normally are. So before I start telling you a bit more about the bay and what we see here, this, by the way, is going to be a bit more of a chill tour because, well, the vibes are so. As you can see, this is some of the prime real estate that we have here by the coast of Santander. These are all independent houses. Most of them are not owned by locals. The majority of these are actually secondary homes that are owned by wealthy people that normally come from the interior of the country. When I mean the interior of the country, I mean regions like Madrid, Castile, sometimes as well people from the Basque Country, sometimes as well now more and more people from farther down in Spain, like the area of Andalusia and whatnot, because it's getting quite too warm over there. And over here, although we have a very nice climate and the temperature never gets too high, well, we still get beautiful sights, beautiful beaches, and, you know, all of those things that people down south cannot enjoy so well anymore. Well, The Bay of Santander, like I was mentioning, and the area that you're looking at right now, is considered amongst the most beautiful bays in the whole world. This is, like I said, not something I say because it's my hometown. This is actually designed by, one of these tourism boards, whatever you want to call them, that go evaluating these areas. It's actually in par and in the same list with the bay in the area of Biarritz and San Francisco. And in front of you, you have an area that I used to go a lot when I was little, because the tide is actually, by the way, at its height. It doesn't get any higher than this. The low tide has been in the morning and it's been creeping up all the way up until now. That island that you see here, and I was just looking to see if maybe I could get us a little bit closer with the zoom, but my zoom today is not working the finest. That is what we call la Isla de los Ratones, which translates directly as the island of the mice. Why? Well, a variety of local legends have been born in there, but of course, we have in this area rodents and what have you not at the water itself, but well, it's one of those situations. However, the island is most better known and used to be part of the Escuela Cántabra de Vela, which is the Cantabrian sailing school. Closer to the area of the bay where we normally walk by, we have the Caer de Vela, which is where our Olympic team actually trains, and this is one of their facilities. So quite often the kids, and not so kids, because actually we have adults as well, so I don't know why I say kids, all of the people that train over there can take the sailing boat. In fact, I don't know if I turn around, I don't know if you can see that one that is just coming through. They can take the sailing boats from the area of the bay closer to Santander and then come here for the extra facility. And well, here you actually see this area that is full of signs of caution, don't jump on here. This is an entirely new structure that they've had to create to try and protect the beaches on this side of the bay. If I do now a 180, and you can see the mountains there with Peñacabarga in the back, and over here with the building at the top, which is the Hotel Real. Hey Cheryl, how are you doing? Thank you so much for joining. All of this area of the bay is currently at risk because of our tides. The tide in Cantabria, it can be quite fierce because we feed directly from the Cantabrian Sea, which is part of the Atlantic. So as a result, and because of climate change and a few other things, our bay is at risk of closing. I don't know if you guys saw, not on YouTube because I didn't have to upload it to YouTube, but maybe on our Facebook group or page, the area that I'm pointing at right in front of us. You see where the espigón, which literally means this sort of fake man-made wall is. There is another beach. That beach is not at the foot of the mountains. That is a beach that appears right in the middle of the bay. The sands all across this area, as they move along, they've created this beach here in the middle, which we call El Puntal, which quite literally means like the edge, the point of the coast. When the tide is very low, El Puntal actually pretty much goes all the way to where that other ship is. It takes almost the whole of this area, and because of that and the way that the sand moves, we are at risk of actually getting our bay closed perpetually. So this is one of those new walls that have been done in an attempt to stop the current from moving the sands too far back or anything like that, and to keep our natural environment safe, because as you can see, this is not just an area of luxury for us to enjoy everything that we have to see in here, but it's also a very important area for maritime conservation, development, etc. Hey Kay, I'm so glad that you've been able to join us, and well, everyone else watching at home or now or later, you are very, very welcome, and I'm glad that you could join now, because literally, as I was saying a few moments back, when I was doing my virtual tour of El Sardinero for World Virtual Tours, I actually got rained on. So we've just got lucky. We've got very, very lucky. Well, as you can see, Cantabria is not just the coast. I mean, we're walking by the coast, but walking by the coast is the only way of getting those beautiful views of the mountains that you're seeing here. So right in front of us is the area of Peñacabarga. If you guys have been following me for a while, or if you are actually on YouTube, you're gonna see that not on the live tour sections, but on the complete tours and mini tours, I have a few recordings that I've taken from right top up there, just so you can put things in context. And that's about 530 meters, give or take, up up the sea level. So the mountains that you see behind it are of course a lot taller. In fact, we're looking now towards the area of Picos de Europa, which are the peaks of Europe, already in the border with Asturias and the plains of Castile. In fact, there was a little bit of snow up there. I don't know if you can see it because the clouds are obviously, you know, getting in the way, but there was a little bit of snow up there when I got up high. This is actually one of the most beautiful things about Cantabria, that you can be at the coast and at the mountain in literally a 50-minute drive, less, depending where you are. Well, before I move on, I wanted to show you, of course, a very typical Spanish phenomenon, which is what we call they're called balnearios, although that's not really the right word. That gives us the wrong impression. A balneario is actually like our word for a spa. It's the idea of going somewhere where you enjoy the waters, etc. But nowadays, the majority of these balnearios by the coast are not legal. You have to be very careful with where the, I'll say it, buildings are due to, well, construction changes that make these buildings sometimes unsafe, particularly in areas where, like we've seen, the beach is receding or whatever. This is, however, no longer a spa sort of thing. This used to be an area for retirement when you came to the beach, but now, as you can see, it's a cafeteria and restaurant. And next to it, we have, well, the area for the Cruz Roja, which is the Red Cross, the Spanish Red Cross, and all of our water sport providers. However, of course, because it is the 1st of May and it's a bank holiday, because it's the Laborers' Day today in Spain, is not open. And not just that, that normally just opens on high season. Well, as you can see, these are well, it's technically 2 beaches. We're still walking on what we call the Magdalena Beach, which roughly ends where those dogs are at the back end, and then it moves to the beach of Los Peligros. These are the 2 beaches that we have, properly speaking, in the Bay of Santander. We have a few more, but already leading to the Cantabrian Sea. And as a result, these are the beaches where normally people don't come over until the summer. The reason for that, as you can see, they're a bit smaller than the ones we have on the other side. These are beaches that are also a lot closer to the city, so you get a bit more noise from traffic. Of course, you have houses right next to it, and you get dogs, like the one who is just following us and barking at us. In fact, there you have that lovely little tekel on the other side. So these are the beaches that normally the locals come in during the summer. This is not necessarily where tourists tend to come, because El Sardinero is much more attractive in that regards. I personally think that the beaches of the this side of the bay are nicer because of the views that you get, but you know, I guess we can take it or leave it. No pasa nada. As you can see, the dog is super excited. Well, I guess it will be up to you to do a judgment as to which ones you think are better or worse. Spain, you can actually walk through all not the beaches of Spain, the beaches of Santander. You can walk through all of them. As you can see, these all connect together. Or you can take the Maritime Walk at top. It's a walk that takes you all the way from the city center to the edge of El Sardinero Beach, over through those platforms, stairs, etc. And if you do the whole walk, it's the best part of 8 kilometers, 10 kilometers. What we're walking in here now is a very, very, very small fraction, as you can see. The problem when you're coming through the area of the beach is that sometimes if the tide is very high up, as you're gonna see, the closer we're getting to the chiringuito that closed down, and I'll tell you more about that in a moment, sometimes the tide comes very high up and it completely closes you down. But yes, so the reality is that, I don't know if you can see, there is actually tracks on the sand in here. That's because due to the movement of the sand and the problem that I was mentioning of the tide and the currents, a lot of the beaches on the bay side of Santander have to be full or fill up constantly with sand from the other side to stop it from getting empty, because underneath this there is mostly bedrock, and I'm sure you can tell why. If I turn around, you're gonna see all of these trees. This used to be a massive cliff. Of course not anymore, because we've eroded it and changed it as the years have gone by. And well, this is the reason why for tourists it's not so attractive, because some times of the year this is a lot more rocky. If the tide was lower, because we are at full tide right now, you would be able to see rocks all the way from here to the Isla de los Ratones right there at the back. But well, if you're a local, of course you know where the rocks are, you know where they are not, and they don't give you so much trouble. And it's a way of actually avoiding the masses of tourists that come to El Sardinero beach. Even today when it was raining, there was already a lot of people in El Sardinero. The other advantage the other beaches have is the fact that they're a bit more prepared for like water sports and whatnot. But I personally think these are nicer, they're calmer as well, because since we're on the bay, the movement of the sea is a little bit different. As I'm sure you can see, this is not spiky water. And more importantly, at least from my perspective, they are warmer by about 2 or 3 degrees, but warmer. Well, so as I was saying, I was gonna comment upon this chiringuito. Now, when you come to Spain, to the shore anywhere, this is not peculiar to Cantabria or Santander overall, you will find a lot of places like this building, which as you can see is clearly abandoned. When I was little, this was another balneario, another one of these wrongly called balnearios, because I must insist, our word for balneario nowadays in Spanish means a spa or a thermal bath. These balnearios were essentially just the stopping retreat point for wealthy people to come to the beach, to get their little snack, their little drink, etc. As you can see, this one, unlike the one that I've shown you just a moment ago, in fact I'll turn around while doing a 180 so you can catch the views and we can catch the other balneario. So the one we've just left behind, that one over there, is away enough from the edge of the wet sand where the tide is to be safe. This one, as I'm sure we all can realize, is not. So when this new law of conservation of our coastlines, but in general health and safety, came into Spain a few years back, it was decided that all of these chiringuitos had to close down, which is actually what we should really be calling them. This was essentially just, you know, a vendor point for drinks, snacks, and what have you not. And now, although it's completely abandoned and not used for anything, as you can see, it's become quite a popular spot for local street art and graffiti. Nothing terribly fancy, because, well, there are some risky areas in here to be messing around too much with, but well, that's essentially been pretty much abandoned now for the best part of 5-7 years, probably more, perhaps 10 now, because it's 2025, so maybe I'm not counting my years very well. Well, we need to go right behind it so we can carry on through the beach. So before we do that, let me give you another swipe with the mountains at the back with Peña Cabarga, El Puntal beach in front of us with the little boats, and farther in front of us is the area of Somo and Pedreña, which is where I did the little live tour the other day from, then the Los Ratones Island and the Magdalena Palace. And actually from here you can see not just the flags of the palace, you can see the top of the tower, but they never tore it down. Yeah, well, exactly, Laurie, this is the thing, and this is what bothers us so much. So it's not safe, and well, you can see why. So let me just get us through this part of the beach. Is not really in any good working condition whatsoever. It really should not be here. But the problem, and this is something they realized after they asked to close down all of these, is that because of where they are, many of these are actually quite unsafe to bring down because of where the foundations are. So if you knock down the foundations of these without being careful or carrying on a proper survey, blah, 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 you could actually be affecting the structural integrity of the beach. It could just collapse into the sea. So it's actually quite tricky to determine what to do with them. Or well, it shouldn't be, but as it happens, it has become quite tricky, if you follow my meaning. I don't think anybody ever intended it for it to be so complicated, and yet, well, here we are. Well, we're gonna need to go up and then down again into the beach because the tide came up and it closed part of the cliff area, and I don't know if we can come down here. Actually, we can't. Why? Oh, because, well, this is the problem. So as you see, the area of the they've had to close down this earlier on this week because, as you can see, there is a dune that has formed in here, and well, This is essentially how it's been left. But no bother. What we're gonna do is we're gonna go up the stairs and eventually come down the stairs. So now you're gonna see Reina Victoria as well. But because the stairs are not interesting, let me actually turn around so that I can point the camera at the bay while we are walking up the stairs. Well, this is something that happens sometimes here. It's a little bit frantic, but we the locals are kind of used to it, if you see what I mean. I'm more than used to taking the stairs up and down. But this is why they are concerned about bringing down the chiringuito. Because if you break that down and there is no way of essentially, I guess, doing that safely, all of that part of the beach could potentially just completely disappear and be destroyed. Well, my apologies, I'm a little bit out of breath, but this is the best part of 100 steps. So I'm just trying to get us to the top as quickly as possible so then I can continue our coastal views for a little bit longer. Well, as I was saying, the top part of the city is this area of Reina Victoria, which quite literally means Queen Victoria's Avenue. And many of you would be thinking, ooh, Victoria as in Queen Victoria of the UK. Close enough. It was actually Victoria Eugenia, one of her descendants. Victoria Eugenia is actually going to marry the King of Spain, Alfonso XIII, and as a result, this area that you see here, in fact, you have the best example right there, is going to be end up full of amazing, massive manor houses. In fact, this is one of the houses of the Botín family, which is the family that owns Santander Bank, and one of the wealthiest families, well, the wealthiest family in Cantabria and part of Spain. And behind it, the white building that you cannot see because it's now covered by this one at the front, is the El Gran Hotel, the great hotel, Royal Hotel of Santander. Of course, all of this was here at front because look at the views that the prime state was getting. Like I said, ever since pretty much the expansion of Santander into the area of the bay, and that comes in the 18th and 19th century, even more so after the fire of the 20th century, this area is where the wealthy want to come, where the wealthy are going to develop our city. The walkway that you see right ahead of us is designed precisely to ensure that the good and mighty can parade themselves best they can, and so that they can build their lovely little manor houses all the way up there. Well, as I can see now, I don't think the beach access is gonna be retaken until a bit farther, so I may not be able to take us down to the beach because I think the other stairs have been closed as well for the same reason and part of the beach itself. But the beach that we're looking at right now is actually Peligros Beach, which actually means the beach of dangers. That's because up until recently, up until roughly a little bit before my parents were born, and we're talking of 1972, this area was actually very full with I'll say it, whirlpools. So as a result, it was considered to be dangerous. As I told you before, there are a lot of rocks and a lot of things like that around here. We have a few scorpion fishes as well. They can be quite tricky and nasty if you are not minding yourselves. So that's where it got its name from. As you can see, nothing really dangerous about it nowadays, but well, that's the privilege of actually, having been able to assess the bay, giving it a much safer environment, and being able to develop the infrastructure around it. But well, here, from this elevated position, as much as I didn't necessarily want to come up here, a drop of water has just come into my camera, so let me just clean it so that it can refocus. My bad. There you go. From here, you can see much better the separation between El Puntal Beach and the coast of the area of Pedreña and Somo. You can see how it's literally a barrier of sand that just leaves what is actually the coast of Somo, which is right over there, and it creates this kind of blockade in there. It is allegedly the best beach in the area of Santander because, well, it's essentially a combination of dunes. There is a lot of local wildlife in there. The water is a little bit warmer because of the undercurrents that it creates as it is in, cutting through the bay itself. But well, the problem is, in order to get to that beach, you only have two options. You either start walking all the way from Somo to here, or you grab the Pedreñera, which is actually a little, oh, hang on, I'm gonna turn the camera in here. It's a little boat that actually leaves from the Embarcadero in Santander, from the docks in Santander. You may see it every so often coming through this area. It's literally a 10-minute ride, if so, that for, I think, is €6, it takes you to the other side. Well, the problem is that not everybody knows how to get there, and that's how, well, a lot of people have found it a little bit inaccessible in this day and age. But well, we're trying to find other ways of improving the connections across the bay. The commute between one side of the bay and the other has become very important because the areas across, at the foot of the mountains are actually quite small communities, and they don't have a lot of meaningful ways to have a life of their own, so they depend on their workers to come here to Santander. So the pedreñeras, as we call them, those little boats, keep on coming back and forth between the different villages and Santander. I think there is at least 2 an hour to actually improve the flow. Otherwise, you can drive, but the drive around the bay takes a lot longer than getting the little boat. Well, the reason why I'm doing this is because we're going through a lot of traffic, and there is quite a small narrowing in here. Here, though, is the other private property of the Botín family, so you can understand how important is the real estate in here. And I'm trying to get us to this other side of the view. I'm hoping, it's a hope, that the third set of stairs, well, we'll have to pretty much end here at the top of the viewpoint. But anyways, now that the road has opened up again, let me bring us to here. So as you can see, Reina Victoria is this massive avenue that goes back and forth, and well, from here we start seeing again the views around. The bay shows us all of its different sides. Again, over here we have some of the luxury apartments, flats, etc. Because, well, imagine the wonderful views that the people up there are getting. And just so you understand, when I mean luxury apartments, etc., you cannot buy one of these properties for minimum €500,000. I don't know if that sounds like a lot of money to you guys or not, but I promise you that for us, that's an insane amount of money. Well, here as well, I don't know if you can see, there is some construction going. It's going to be one of the most popular roof terraces in Santander. The building in front of us, the MMC, is actually el Museo Marítimo del Cantábrico. This is our Maritime Museum, as you can see, right at the edge of the sea, which has been always a key institution in the creation and preservation of healthy environments here in the Bay of Santander. In fact, we have a few sharks and other fishes and what have you not that are actually in there, alongside with kind of like a natural history type of museum with specimens that sort of have been recovered over history. We have found some massive, like gigantic calamari in the area of the Bay of Santander because, well, we've been fishermen our whole lives. We've also found, unfortunately, whales that came to die here to the edge of the water, because the bay is often a bit of a safer spot for them to come when they are sick. And, well, if we can help them, we always try to. We've always had a good department for our maritime conservation, because over on this area we get dolphins, bays and seals quite often, but it's not always easy to rescue all of these animals. There was actually a very big problem in this area of Peligros a few years back, because I believe we can actually, yes, these stairs are actually open, because I don't know if you remember the massive petroleum ship, the Prestige, which completely got torn in the area of Galicia. Well, the petrol actually got all the way to here, and it damaged all of our coastline, but we were very lucky and able to clean it up because, well, like I said, we've always been very careful with the environment. As a city, as a region that lives between water and mountain, the environment is literally what gives us our livelihood. The people in here who aren't fishermen, sailors, etc., are, you know, people that work in agriculture, that work with sheep, with cows, with all those kind of things. And we know that the environment is so important for us, at least in that regards. And we do take it a bit more serious, I think, than in other parts of Spain or perhaps Europe or the world, simply because we're literally dependent of it all. And well, here, whenever I manage to get to the bottom of the stair, we're gonna see what we call the Fenomeno Beach. This is not actually a sanctified beach, and you're probably wondering what I mean by that. Well, you see, in order to be an actual beach, in order to be categorized as an actual beach in Spain, like in many other countries, you need to fulfill certain criteria in terms of space, in terms of quality of the sand, etc. Well, the fenomeno, we call it fenomeno because fenomeno means quite literally in English phenomenon, and it's a beach that appears and disappears depending on the height of the tide. And because it's not here all the time, it cannot be categorized as a beach. Oh, I didn't know if there was a moment where the phone did something a bit weird, and I was concerned that I had lost you completely, because the readings are actually quite high. It just had a moment there, I think, with the cars, but because we've had a bit of a storm brewing, I've been a bit like not even sure what was gonna come through, so I'm glad that at least it's stable to some extent. Well, like I was saying, this beach isn't always here, and this has actually caused a bit of a polemic in our city very recently. I know this beach very well because, as you may know, you may have seen a few videos of some tours of a very cute border collie. That is my parents' border collie, and we bring him here because since this beach isn't here all the time and it's not officially a beach, the rules that apply to other beaches are not the same here. So we can bring the dog and let him loose on the leash even during season. In season, all of the beaches of Spain are just for humans. You may be allowed to take your dog to a dog beach, and we have many of those in the country, but the majority of them are for people only and for recreational purposes. So this is normally where we take our dog because it's not technically a beach. However, the people of Cantabria, hey Mary Lou, how are you doing? Thank you so much for joining us. The people of Cantabria wanted to make this our designated dog beach because it's very convenient. It's only a 20-minute walk from the city center. When the tide is low, it actually takes a big chunk. And as you can see, there's always sticks and whatnot, which is fun for the dogs to do, and the humans cannot really use this very well. However, our local government decided that no, they were going to do another beach for dogs somewhere else. Which is a lot less convenient for everyone, and this has been the biggest gossip in the last few months. Everybody has been incredibly upset. Well, as you can see, suddenly we've encountered a lot more people. We are almost already at the city center because, well, by going through Reina Victoria, we've actually encountered a little bit of a shortcut since we couldn't go through the stairs normally. But this is pretty much where we are gonna call the tour. I'm gonna take you here to the view of the bay, properly speaking, so you can see how far we've come. But well, this is our lovely coastal walk, and I must insist, this is just a fraction of it. We've been walking for roughly half an hour. The other section that I did with World Virtual Tours, I was walking for about 45 minutes. So as you can see, in a couple of hours, we've seen some of the most important beaches in Santander, and yet there is a lot more, because if I carry on walking this way, I will reach my house in 20 minutes while going all through the Maritime walk and without any issue. If I continue walking all the way to the back end of El Sardinero, I would be in the area of Magdalenas, which I really wanted to go and record for you guys, but unfortunately it was too windy the other day, and then we had the massive outage on Monday. But that's another area that actually links in all the way to the lighthouse, and that connects this massive walkway of nearly 10 kilometers between one edge and the other. And this area that you see here is as you can see, a spot that became very popular a while back, because this was developed for one of the sailing sailing competitions. These were supposed to be like viewing spots. Now they've kind of become the place where teenagers and other people come to hang out, so that you can have the best views of the bay. It is a very pretty area in this. $500,000 for those, it is, I mean, that's at least, that's for the small ones. Some of the ones, like if I keep on going up, as you can see, all of this is prime real estate. The better ones were already going into millions of euros, of course, but for a small flat up there, $500,000 is more or less all right in that sense. And yes, to wake up and see that every day is really, really incredible. But as you can see, if I turn around this way, this is already the area of Palacio de Festivales. A little bit further back is the city center. That is the docks of Santander. And then of course here we have Peñacabarga again, our constant friend, the mountain. And then of course all of that area at the end, I don't know if you can see, that is already the peninsula of the Magdalena, Isla de los Ratones, and we cannot see Peligros and the rest because they are behind the museum. But this is pretty much all I have for you guys today. I would love to stay for a little bit longer, but I'm actually going for dinner with my family. Since I'm flying back to the UK tomorrow, I'm going to have dinner with my parents, with my grandparents, my sister, the whole shebang. So I promised them that I would turn up on time. And my mom was very upset that I was gonna get wet. So this is what we're gonna call it. It is expensive for a home indeed, but particularly for us here, an ordinary home in Spain is a lot cheaper. But of course, you're paying here for location, for views, and all that jazz. So in that sense, yes, I would consider that expensive. If I compare that to the UK though, that's actually quite average. Most homes, without being anything special, are actually that expensive or more, and they don't have the views that I've just shown you. So, well, this is where I'm gonna be wrapping it up. I hope that you have enjoyed a little bit of the coast in this spell that has become at least quite clear, and where we've not had, rain coming through, and that it's, given you a different insight of a part of Santander where we normally haven't been before, because, well, in high season, filming the beach is very difficult. In the winter is very difficult for other reasons. So today we really just got lucky in that sense. No worries, Catherine. It's my absolute pleasure. Well, on that note, guys, if you're around, I'll be back, like I said, with tours and all of that jazz from this weekend. And I hope that I'll catch you on some of those. But until then, take care of yourselves, have a lovely day, and all that jazz. Compared to Australia, oh yes, I entirely agree, and indeed everything is relative. No worries, Tish, my pleasure. And yes, I'm sure it will be pretty easy. The weather is supposed to be nice. So I'll catch you guys later. Thank you so much. Take care, and lovely having you here. Hasta luego. Muchas gracias. Bye.